Hi guys, welcome to GFN Gaming. I'm Russ, and today we'll be playing a game of Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team. Facing off today in this 125 point game will be the Astra Militarum and the Heretic Astartes, cultists versus Imperial Guard. Before we get into the game, make sure to like if you like this kind of content and subscribe, it all helps the channel out. We're playing the match play mission Objective Ultima from the Kill Team Elites book. For this mission, if you hold the primary objective, Objective 1 in this picture, and at least one secondary objective at the end of a battle round, they gain a number of victory points equal to the number of secondary objectives that they control. That's the mission and the deployment zones. Now let's go over the teams. Starting off with the Astra Militarum, and I'll be taking them as Cadian, which means they will get to reroll hit rolls of 1 in the shooting phase if they were stationary. Also, if they issue the order Take Aim and the model was stationary, then they can reroll all hit rolls instead of just ones. Leading the guard today will be a sergeant. I've kept him pretty low cost with just his last pistol and chainsword. His main job will be just barking out those orders each round and generating that command point. My combat specialist today will be a Bulgrin. It is quite a big point sink, but I did want to try one out. As it happens, obviously in this mission he should be pretty key at holding that primary objective. I have a Scion Gunner as my medic, and he's the first of my plasma gunners. He doesn't get access to the Cadian rerolls, but as a Scion he has a 3+ ballistic skill already, so it's some nice reliable plasma. I then have 2 more plasma gunners, one of which will be my demolition specialist. Moving on to the non-specialists now, and I have another special weapons gunner, this time with a melter, just because I haven't painted up another plasma. I then have another guardsman with a lasgun, bare bones except for a Vox caster, so they can reroll failed nerve tests. I then have another Scion gunner, again equipped with a melter because I haven't got a plasma painted up, but it still should do a lot of damage. And the reason I haven't taken Plasma Sniper is because I have taken Rain as a specialist retainer, and he automatically comes with the sniper keyword. And I've also taken his buddy Rouse to finish off the team. Moving on to the Heretic Astartes team, and I have taken them as a renegade chapter, Dark Raiders, which means they can reroll charge rolls for models in the kill team. Leading the Heretic Astartes, I've gone for a Chaos Cultist champion, not exactly fluffy, and his one job is to not die. He'll be Mark of Nurgle just in case I need to use that tactic to give him +1 toughness. Combat specialist and obvious true leader of the kill team, we have a Berserker champion. He's got a Power Fist and Chainsword, modelled here by his scorpion tail, and he will be Mark of Khorne. Next up I have a Zealot Possessed. I really love the Possessed. I don't think they work that well. That D3 attacks is not great. Probably should have taken him as a combat so he gets the +1 even if he doesn't charge, but we'll see how he goes. You know him, you love him, you've probably used him in every single game. It is the Plasma Sniper. Predictably, he is also Mark of Slaanesh, so we can use Endless Cacophony. Moving on to the non-specialists, and I have 2 Khorne Berserkers, both with chain axes and chainswords. These guys are obviously Mark of Khorne, and one of them will have the Icon of Wrath. Doesn't help them out because they're renegades, so they already get a reroll, but it will help the cultists, who are all Mark of Khorne. Now with the deployment roll, Astra Militarum get 8, and the Heretic Astartes get 4. And here's a recap of what happened in the deployment phase. Turn 1 initiative rolls now. Astra Militarum get a 5. And the Heretic Astartes win with the roll of a 10. They'll be going first. The cultist champion leader is just going to tuck in out of line of sight, taking objective 3. I get a 5 on the advance roll for the possess, so I move him forward so he takes the primary objective and also blocks the counter charge of the Astra Militarum. Did it a bit with the plasma gunner, but he's going to end up on objective 3 looking out the window with lots of line of sight. Lots of advancing now. This cultist is just going to plant himself on top of the primary objective, and his friend will follow as closely as he can. Not advancing, but this cultist is just going to move forward. This cultist is also going to advance to objective 1, but make sure that it's outside of 2 inches of the other cultist. More advances on this flank with the Berserker champion and the 2 Berserkers. This cultist is also going to advance, getting big with a 5, he's going to be able to take objective 2. And finally, the last cultist will also advance, putting himself on objective 2. And here's an overview of the Heretic Astartes movement phase, pushing out in pretty much all directions. The Scion Melter Gunner is going to advance, getting a 3. Rouse is also going to advance, getting a 1, but with his grapple gun it's enough to get him on objective 5. The left flank of Plasma is just going to move up to get line of sight. Sergeant's going to move up with him, making sure he's in range to give out some orders. The Bullgrin now is going to charge through the doors into the Possessed. And he makes it on the roll of a 9. Melter Gunner's just going to go forward, poking his head out of that window. Rain is also going to advance, just so he can get in some good line of sight for next round. And here's a recap of the movement. We've got the left flank moving slowly with the plasma, and the right flank charging out to get objectives. A little bit exposed with the Berserkers to the plasma fire, and we've got a Possessed who's probably not capable of dealing with the Bullgrin, but we'll see if he can make at least a dent. Start the shooting phase for the Astra Militarum, and they're going to put Take Aim on the Demolition's plasma gunner.
Aim.
Okay, let's have the initiative, so their plasma gunner is going to fire at the Melter Gunner. I'm going to overcharge because I want the 2 damage, so this is going to be 2 shots, hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s, and wounding on 2s. -3, so there's no save here, so this is 2d6 looking for a 5 to take him out of action. And he gets it. It's the reason you take a plasma sniper. And that is a very melty guardsman. Spitting back plasma death of their own, the Demolition's plasma gunner is going to fire. Wasn't stationary, but he did get the take aim, so it'll be re-rolling 1s. Hits once, and it is a wound. Overcharged, so this is -3, so there will be a 6-up save. And it's failed. 2d6 damage, needing a 4. First plasma volley from the guard, and they've taken out the Berserker champion. Cultist up here is going to fire his pistol. Thanks for joining me on that wild ride. Second plasma gunner is now going to fire into this cultist here. No reroll here, so I'm not overcharging. There's going to be 2 shots, hitting on 4s. At strength 7, toughness 3, this will be wounding on 2s. Gets a wound with no save, so on a 4-up, he's taken out of action. I mean, getting a little lucky with the dice rolls, but that is some consistent shooting from the plasma. Last gun from the Voxcaster into the cultist over here. This will be 1 shot at this range, hitting on 5s. And he misses on a 2. Final plasma from the Scion's going to fire into the cultist also, at this range hitting on 3s. Hits twice on double 6, and it will be 2s to wound, not overcharging. No save, and it will be a 4, 5, or 6 to take him out of action. And it's just a flesh wound. Scion Melter Gunner that advanced is now going to try and make cream of cultist soup, hitting on 4s. He hits on a 6, ominous, and wounds on a 4. A whispered prayer to the soup Nazi is all the cultist has to stop the melter shot going through. 3d6, just needing 1 4. And the cultist is souped. I think he's within half range here, so this should have been 2d6, but it doesn't matter. Moving on to the combat phase, and the reason why the Heretic Astartes have saved 2 CP, they're going to use Decisive Strike, and the Astra Militarum are going to counter. It's a roll-off, and the Heretic Astartes get a 4, and the guard get a 3, so this does mean the Possessed will get to strike first. He didn't charge for the +1 attack for Zealot, but he does get D3 attacks for his horrifying mutations. So that's 3 attacks. Hitting on 3s, and all 3 go through. It's a good start for the Possessed. Strength 5, toughness 5, so the harder part, it'll be wounding on 4s. Gets 2 through at -2 AP, so this will go on to the 4-up invulnerable save for the Bulgrin. Just damage 1, so that's 1 wound down on the Bulgrin. With combat and the avalanche of muscle rule, this is 5 attacks on the charge, hitting on 3s. Gets 3 hits at strength 7, toughness 4, this will be wounding on 3s. Only -1 AP on that Bulgrin Maul, so a 4-up save. And he fails 1, which would be 2 damage. Taking the possessed to 0 wounds, this will be 2d6, needing a 4 or more. And he's out on a 4 and a 6. The Bulgrin is then going to consolidate right onto the primary objective. That's the end of the turn. We're just going to do a morale check for this cultist here because he's got a flesh wound. And on the roll of a 4, he will be shaken. End of turn 1 scoring now, and obviously the Bulgrin for the Astra Militarum holds that primary objective. We have the Halfling on objective 5 and the Guardsman on objective 4, scoring them 2 victory points for the 2 secondary objectives they hold alongside the primary. Moving on to turn 2. Initiative roll for turn 2, Guard get a 9, and Heretic Astartes get an 8, just missing out on the vital turn 2 initiative. Rouse is just going to move forward, still on objective 5, but adding some line of sight for his +1 to range shooting. Some shuffling with the Plasma to get line of sight, and the Plasma Demolition who's already there is just going to ready. Sergeant's also going to ready, and the Scion Plasma Gunner is going to march up to objective 1, the primary objective, and hang out there. Scion Melter's just going to move forward again just to get line of sight. Debated a charge with the Bulgrin, but he needs to stay on that primary objective, so he just readies. And here's a recap of the Astra Militarum's move. Not a lot going on, just securing their position. Plasma Gunner's going to ready up, as is the Cultist on objective 2. Cultist next to him is going to advance, get to 3, and is going to put some pressure on that primary objective. Cultist on the bridge is just going to move forward. Now it's time for the Khorne Berserkers to charge. Starting with this one now, and he's going to charge both of the Plasma Gunners behind the wall. Both overcharging, doing them one at a time, looking for 6s on the Overwatch. No hits, and it's on to the charge. Fails it on a 5, but he does get an automatic reroll with their Renegade chapter. And on an 11, he is definitely in. Second Berserker is going to charge in, but just to the Bulgrin. Fails with an initial roll of a 3, but he will get a reroll. And it's still a 3, so he's not getting in there. He's going to use the movement to get forward, though. And here's a quick recap of what happened in the Heretic Astartes movement phase. Start of the shooting phase, and the order will be...
Fix bayonets!
And the Plasma Guardsman is going to flail wildly and try and kill a Berserker.
You suck!
Bulgrin's going to throw a grenade at the flesh-wounded, shaken cultist, just, you know, because he's having such a good day already. That's 4 attacks, hitting on 4s. Strength 4 on the frag bomb, toughness 3, so wounding on 3s. Cultist will get a 6-up save because it's 0 AP. And that's 1 save, but that's 2 damage going through, and he is already flesh wounded, so needing a 3 to take him out of action. The Plasma Gunner now is going to fire overcharged into the Bulgrin. That's 2 hits, at strength 8, toughness 5, it will be 3s to wound. And that's going to be 2 wounds at -3 AP, 2 damage apiece. Passes 1, fails 1, they're going to use a CP to reroll the failed. And he makes a save on a 6. Plasma Gunner here is going to fire into the Berserker. 2 shots hitting on 3s at this range. And misses both. In the fire at will phase now, and the Heretic Astartes are going to use for 2 CP, Endless Cacophony, which means their Plasma Gunner with Mark of Slaanesh gets to fire again, and these are 2 shots going into the Bulgrin again. He will again be overcharging, so this is 2 shots, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s because of Sniper. Gets the Sniper reroll, and that's 2 hits. It's strength 8, toughness 5, it's wounding on 3s. Just the 1 wound at -3, the slab shield gives him a 2-up, so it's a 5-up save. That'll take him to 0 wounds, so this is 2d6 looking for a single 4-up. And on double 3, that is just a flesh wound. The Rattling Sniper Rain is going to take aim at the Plasma Gunner. It's time to maim? Sick wrapping aside, he does hit on a 5. He wounds on a 6, so it becomes a mortal wound, so needs a 5-up because of Obscure to take him out of action. Gets a 4, but they are going to use a reroll, and he gets a 6. That Plasma Gun is taken out of action. So looking at these two as a pair, he's a sniper, so he rerolls 1s, but he hits on 2s, doesn't have any long range because of a sniper. If the target's visible to Rouse, he gets to reroll his hits and wound rolls. I mean, I should have fired him first, obviously, and my Bulgrin wouldn't be on a flesh wound, but still, good to know now. Melter Gunner now is going to try and make a dude smoothie to wash down his soup starter. At this range, it's one shot, hitting on 5s, and he misses on a 4. This cultist here on objective 2 is just going to shoot his autogun into the Bulgrin. Hitting on 5s, getting 1, and wounding on 5s. No AP, so he does get his 2-up save, and he's fine. The las gunner is going to fire into the cultist, 2 shots, hitting on 5s, and he gets 1. Wounding on 4s, and it's a failed wound on a 2. Final shooting now, and the cultist is just going to fire his auto pistol into Rain. Misses on a 1. And that's it for the shooting phase, moving on to the fight phase. Only charged model this round is the Berserker, so he is going to go into both guardsmen, one at a time. Because the chain axe will wound on 2s, we're going to do his 2 chain axe attacks first, and save the chainsaw in case none of them get through. Because of the intervening terrain, this is going to be 2 attacks hitting on 4s. +1 to the base of 5 means it's 6 versus 3, so 2s to wound. -1 AP, so gets a 6-up save. Fails it, and on a 6 he is out of action before the chainsword even swings. Blood for the Blood God now, and he's going to put all of his attacks into the other plasma gunner, starting with the 2 attacks from the axe. Hitting on 4s, gets 1, but it is a death to the False Emperor, so I'll roll another, and I get 2. Wounding on 2s here, and that's both of them. Guardsman fails his 6-up save, so it's one of these to see if he's out of action, and he's just flesh wounded. And that's the end of turn 2, just looking at the morale now. First up, we'll do a nerve check on the Bulgrin. He's got the medic next to him for that unwavering support, and with the amount of models they've got out of action, a 4 is enough for him to be okay. And on the guardsman, the Berserker is just flesh wounded. Again, a 4 is enough for him to pass. Heretic Astartes, due to their casualties and flesh wounds, are going to need to take a broken check, and on double 1s, they're fine. End of turn 2, and the Astra Militarum still hold the primary objective, and they still hold 2 secondary objectives, so that means they're going to get an additional 2 points this round. That means at the end of turn 2, the scores are 4-0 to Astra Militarum. Moving on to turn 3. Initiative roll for turn 3. Astra Militarum get a 9, and the Heretic Astartes get a 6. This plasma gun is going to fall back away from the Berserker towards objective 4. Guardsman with the Voxcaster is going to move there as well. Out of line of sight, but still within range to do orders, the Sergeant is going to charge into the cultist up there. And boy does he get it on a double 6. Rain is going to swap positions with Rouse, getting a 5 on his advance and scurrying up the walls. Rouse is going to use his grapple gun to get within 6-inch range of the leader on objective 3, so he can throw his demolition charge. Melter Gunner Scion's just going to move forward towards objective 3 to get line of sight on the leader as well. Time to take him out. Bulgrin charges the nearest cultist, getting in on a 5. And finally, the Scion medic with the plasma gun is just going to ready. And here's a quick recap of what's happened in the Astra Militarum move phase. The Berserker is going to charge both of the guardsmen that fell back. Rolling the charge first, and he does get it on a 9. Start with the Lasgun Overwatch first, 2 shots hitting on 6s. No hits, gonna overcharge the plasma and try, needing 6s. Oh, and there's nothing, so that means the Berserker's in. So with that Berserker in, it means potentially with Blood for the Blood God, he should, in theory, be able to clear both guardsmen and claim objective 4. It obviously means nothing without the primary objective, but it would stop them scoring those points. Obviously the Sergeant there locked in with the cultist, and we've got a mess happening there over the primary objective. Still got the Berserker to go, and obviously we have the leader under a lot of pressure here. So there is a plan. The Heretic Astartes don't want to get greedy, so the Berserker, instead of risking failing the charge, is just going to charge the Bulgrin and try and get as close to the primary objective as possible. So the leader, obviously a lot of pressure, is going to advance, and he's just going to basically put his body on objective 1. Could be risky, but it's part of the plan. It looks like a 3, but it's a bad dice, actually a 2, and I needed more, so I'm going to re-roll this. And here's a quick recap of the Heretic Astartes move phase. Obviously, mainly charges and advancing. Start the shooting phase, so it's time for orders, and it is going to be...
Fix bayonets!
Unflesh wounded Voxcaster is going to attack. He hits, but fails to wound. Plasma gun is now going to fire into the leader. Potentially perilous, but I'm going to overcharge to shoot. Gets one hit, gets a wound on a 4, so now because he's overcharged, it's 2d6 needing a 4. And they do get it. It's not over yet, they still have 2 bodies near objective 2. If they can kill the Bulgrin, they can still get the objective. It was a risk, but it's not over yet. They still have objective 2, potentially objective 4 if the Berserker does well, and if the Berserker kills the Bulgrin, they could get objective 1 as well. Unfortunately for that plan to succeed, they both have to be alive, and the Bulgrin will strike first. 4 attacks into the Berserker and 1 into the Cultist. We'll start with the Cultist. Needs a 4 because of his flesh wound, and he gets it. It's going to be 2s to wound, and he wounds on a 3. -1 AP, so there's no save for the Cultist. Just a flesh wound. They are going to use a reroll to try and get him out of action, and they get him out of action on a 4 and a 6. I forget about one of the attacks here, so I just do 3, but he still hits twice. Wounding on 3s, and it's just the 1 wound. Fails a save, which is potentially disastrous, so we're going to use a CP to reroll it, only needing a 4 up. And when I remember the Bulgrin gets another attack, and he fails it. First round of attacks for the Berserker on the objective 4, and he's going to put all of his attacks into the Voxcaster, starting with the 2 axes. Hitting on 3s, and that's 1 death to the False Emperor. 3 hits in total, and it's wounding on 2s. That's 3 wounds from 2 attacks. Nice. So I forget that he gets a save, because it's a 5-up base, not 6, but effectively 1 damage goes through. Flesh wounds for the Blood God, the thing you never hear Khorne Berserkers screaming. We're now going to have to split attacks, the 2 chain axes into the Plasma, and the 1 chainsword into the freshly wounded Voxcaster. Hits with the chainsword, and it is death to the False Emperor. That's my monkey dice again, that's actually a 2, so it's a miss. Wounds on a 3. Will get a 5-up save, but he fails it on a 1. Revving his chainsword, and he takes him out of action on a 5. That just leaves the 2 chain axe attacks into the already flesh-wounded Plasma Gunner. And that's a big blow, missing both. They can only contest this objective now. Not looking good. The last hope now, let's see how well this Berserker can do. All of his attacks going into the Bulgrin. So a little bit of a stake here, I'd roll 3 attacks for his chain axe instead of the 2. And roll a death for the False Emperor. But as he fails to even wound once, it doesn't really matter, so we'll move on to the chainsword attacks. Wow. Rinse and repeat, 2 axe attacks. 2 hits, it's a good start. But with a Game of Thrones Season 8 finish. It's all up to the chainsword now, hits with a 5. Wounds on a 4, but this is no AP, so he's going to get a 2-up save, and he makes it. The dream is probably dead at this point. The Sergeant now is going to earn his accolades, 3 attacks into the Cultist, hitting on 4s. And that's 2 hits, wounding on 4s with his chainsword, and he gets 1, no AP, so it's going to be a 6-up save. And it's just a flesh wound on the roll of a 1. Hungry for the kill, he's going to use the last CP to try and get it, to see if he can force that break check. And it is still just the flesh wound. Attack from the Guardsman back into the Berserker, needing a 5. Fails on a 3, and now the Cultist is going to kill the Sergeant. It's going to happen. He hits once, going to need 4s to wound, and he wounds as well, going to go to a save, and on roll of a 6 he just parries the weapon away with his chainsword. End of the combat phase now, and both Berserkers have really failed to take their targets out, which means the Astra Militarum will still hold the primary objective, and with the Rouse and Melter free, they will be able to move on to the objectives in the later turn. Onto the morale phase, and the Chaos Cultist, who was parried by the Sergeant, will absolutely be shaken on the roll of a 6. And on the roll of an 8 for the break test, they will actually be broken, as the max leadership they have on the board is the Berserker at leadership 7. Looking at the actual score, the Astra Militarum still have more bodies on the primary objective, and they hold objective 5, so that's an additional 1 point, for a total score of 5 to the Astra Militarum and 0 to the Heretic Astartes. At this stage, with a broken kill team and behind on the scores by 5, I'm just going to call it here. It's going to be an Astra Militarum victory with no real way for the Heretic Astartes to get back in the game. If you've made it this far, thanks so much for watching. Please like if you like this kind of content, and subscribe. Everything helps me out to continue making these videos. Thanks very much, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye now.